Hey guys, my name is Shroomy. I have a lot of different names and I just really like lore. We got a new comic, this one called Crossroads, focusing on Cassidy, Watchpoint Grand Mesa, and, of course, the Deadlock Rebels. So, I'm going to be breaking that down. There's a lot I want to go over with this one, especially with Cassidy's character and where I think he could be going in the future, because this story does introduce a lot of new concepts for him that I do want to bring up. Stuff that his character hasn't really explored or felt like even really was going to be explored for a long time. It's really cool to see a Cassidy comic in any way, especially right now. Didn't expect that, so it's a really cool thing to just kind of break down and discuss. We'll also be talking about the Deadlock Rebels, Sierra, the overall story, and everything in this video. So don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to keep up to date with me, you can always follow me on Twitter too. I usually post my thoughts early over there and then port them into this video in some way, shape, or form. So don't be afraid to go look over there if you want to see some stuff a little early. Anyways, here's a little breakdown of the comic, and then we'll go into my overall thoughts. In the comic, Crossroads, we get to see the attack on Watchpoint Grand Mesa from a different perspective than Sierra's like last time. Instead, we get to see how Overwatch, and mainly Cassidy, reacted. We see Cass as he prepares to face off with the Deadlock gang, while Echo, Sojourn, Lucio, Farah, and Zarya prepare to track down Talon. When Cassidy is alone, he notices his comms have been hacked, and knows who it could be. Frankie chimes in, a founding member of the Deadlock Rebels and a character from the Deadlock Rebels book. Frankie is the hacker of the group, and they just call to say hello. After a small chat, Cassidy prepares to face off against Ashe, but is surprised to see so many new faces in the gang. Ashe, Cassidy, Bars, and Bob face off, and while they clash, Cassidy and Ashe have a back and forth about Cassidy's past. How he joined Overwatch and left the Deadlock Rebels behind. Cassidy doesn't see what he did as wrong, and remembers how rough those early days in Overwatch were with Gabriel Reyes. But he does see the good that they did back then as well. When Ashe says she never stopped trying to find him, it makes him reflect on if he really did make the right choice joining Overwatch, and leaving the gang behind. This gives the Rebels the upper hand, managing to cause an explosion behind him, knocking him out cold. As the gang gets away with the loot and cargo, Cassidy comes to his senses. He meets back up with Sojourn and the rest of the team. Here, he meets Sierra for the first time, the captain of the Watchpoint Grand Mesa and the Helix people stationed here. Sojourn says she'll be joining them for a little while as they look into what Talon wanted with the Naughton Vault. Cassidy is shocked by how young she is, but does agree happily. As the team prepares their next move, Cassidy wonders if what he did back then was right, and, for the first time in a long time, doubts his past with the Rebels, and thinks of what he truly lost. Now, there's a lot I want to go over with this story, from everything going on with Cassidy to everything going on with Ashe, and, well, the Deadlock Rebels and Sierra, of course, as well. I'll be breaking all that down now. To first start, let's talk about Cassidy. So Cassidy's entire relationship with the Deadlock Rebels is a little complicated now, obviously. He left the group, and for a long time, he didn't really look back. He kind of accepted where he was, and this is kind of leading to a moment here that we talk about in the comic. In the comic, Cassidy kind of comes to the realization that the Deadlock Rebels never abandoned him back in the day, and instead, well, he kind of abandoned them. But why is this such a big deal? Well, in Cassidy's early days of being in the gang got into a fight with Overwatch. Back then, Cassidy used himself as a distraction to let the rest of the gang escape. Everyone did, and Cassidy got arrested by Overwatch. Now, he was originally just going to go to prison, but Gabriel Reyes saw his sharpshooting skills in that fight and decided to take him under his wing to join Blackwatch. This was a pretty big moment for Cassidy's character and kind of shaped a lot of how he is today. He became Reaper or Gabriel Reyes' kind of prodigy or student in a way, and the two were extremely close back then. Something that Cassidy even alludes to now as something he doesn't really like. He holds a lot of resentment towards everything that happened with Reyes, and assumedly we're going to be seeing that in the future. That's one of those interactions I can't wait to see one day, Reaper and Cassidy finally re-meeting and talking. But yeah, what's interesting here is Cassidy seems to have just assumed or kind of come to terms with the fact that the Rebels left him behind. But everything with Ashe's character has never really said that to me, and kind of made a point that she sees this found family she's made as, well, a family. She says in the comic that no one gets left behind, and this kind of wakes Cassidy up and makes him realize that maybe these people didn't actually leave him behind. Maybe he's the one who left them. And he does see Ashe's perspective on things here, which is a really good moment. Cassidy's kind of character and everything going on with him has felt really whole for a while. He's almost felt complete and a lot of it happened off screen, so getting this moment now is setting up a new arc for him. He's gonna have to come to terms with how everything went with Ashe and the Rebels, but also what he's gonna do about it in the future. There's a little bit of an alluding thing at the end that he's gonna have to deal with this again, especially Ashe, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see them re-meet and at least come to terms about where they are now. Maybe Cassidy works with them again for some reason, or maybe the Rebels kind of welcome him back in, but not fully since he's with Overwatch. But that's going to be happening way down the road. This is going to be a long-term thing for Cassidy's character, and I'm really excited to see where this part goes. Cassidy's whole thing has been for a long time just being the recruiter, so giving him a little bit more push here with all this stuff is really fun to see. Another thing I want to mention with all this is, of course, Ashe's perspective on things. So Ashe is the other major character in this, and we get to see Ashe alongside Bars kind of dueling Cassidy. Bob helps, of course, as well, but everybody kind of assumed he would help. I think it's more interesting that Bars has been pretty much around Ashe every time that she's been around. Bars and Ashe are kind of like a little duo in a way. They've been in Luck of the Draw together, they've been in the animated short together, and they've even been in the Christmas comic. So it is cool to just see Bars be a little bit more active in the gang. Maybe Bars is kind of like a second in command at the moment, or somebody pretty high up that Ashe respects a lot. We know, thanks to Ashe's short story Luck of the Draw, that Ashe respects and highly values Omnics. She doesn't even see a real difference between Omnics and humans, seeing them all as family. So it is a cool detail I thought I'd bring up. But Ashe's overall feelings towards Cassidy and how everything went back in the day are a lot more understandable now from her perspective. This isn't just like Cassidy leaving and never coming back. This is like a member of your family just abandoning you. This was kind of something that was a little bit more apparent after their relationship was kind of shown off in Deadlock Rebels in that book, but it is good to see this with Ashe's character. I'm wondering where they're going to take her in particular next, or if the Rebels are going to kind of be on the sideline for a while. They got all the loot from this Helix base in the Watchpoint, so I wouldn't be surprised if this leads to some type of repercussion later. Cassidy even says in the short story that this is going to have some type of situation unfold because of it. They're going to be wanted men even more than they were before. So yeah, that's something I'd keep an eye on. Another cool thing that I bring up with all this as well is, well, Ashe is seemingly kind of increasing her forces. And what do I mean by that? In the comic, we get to hear about how the Deadlock gang has expanded a lot since Cassidy was in it. Now, they talk about a moment later with the Jackpot gang, which is another gang that we've known about for a little while in the lore, which makes this sound and make more sense. The gang's kind of evolved over time and becoming more like a small militia or even army than a gang. There's a lot of members in it, and there's turf wars going on constantly, and as I said earlier, the Jackpot gang is seemingly closing in on Deadlock's turf. But those guys are kind of a deeper cut. In the short story Luck of the Draw, which takes place during the Null Sector invasion, we get to actually see that Ashe was trying to meet with the leaders of this gang to kind of strike an alliance, or at least a trading partnership. But because Null Sector invaded, everything kind of goes, well, crazy, and this deal kind of falls apart. They all work together to escape Las Vegas away from Null Sector, and while they did work together then, it does seem like the gangs are fighting even more now, and turf wars and such are happening a lot more. It would be really fun to explore the Jackpot gang with like a hero in the future if we do get more out of them, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys really want to see more of the Jackpot gang? Let me know below. Speaking of the Deadlock gang, I do want to mention that we finally got real looks at Frankie and Bez. Frankie and Bez are a couple from Deadlock Rebels. They got married after the events of the book, but Frankie is the hacker of the group like I mentioned before, with Bez being another character from Deadlock Rebels as well. Both of these two are really cool characters that are important to the Deadlock lore, and it's really cool to finally get images of them that I'll put up on screen now or have already. These two are probably the most important two Deadlock members aside from Ashe and Cassidy, so yeah, really great to see them as well. I do hope we get some more of the founding members and just more of the characters in the future to get full-on designs. Deadlock Rebels is a really fun book that delves into these early days, and I highly recommend going and reading that for more on all these guys. Aside from everything with that and the Deadlock gang / everything with Cassidy, there are some really cool little neat things I thought I'd bring up with Sojourn and Sierra at the end. The first major thing is Sojourn. She mentions to Cassidy that Freya and Emery are working with Talon. Sojourn's kind of reaction to this kind of paints a character who maybe thought this might happen but didn't want it to be true, whereas Cassidy does seem shocked, but obviously he's focusing on everything that just happened with Ashe, so he doesn't have a lot of time to let all that sink in. Freya and Emery being ex-Overwatch obviously means Cassidy and Sojourn, particularly of these characters, would have those relationships and at least friendships, especially Emery, so it is something we're definitely going to be picking up on as the season goes. I would love to see how the rest of Team Overwatch kind of reacts to this information, that their friends are working with the enemy now, and how things go about that in the future. A big moment that I want to see especially is how everyone reacts to Emery's new look. Freya basically looks the same as she did in Overwatch, but Emery's gone over such massive modifications that it's going to be a big moment when it happens. The last thing I do want to bring up here is Sierra. So Cassidy meets Sierra here and they shake hands, and of course he mentions how this is kind of reminding him of when he got brought into Overwatch with Gabe. So I do think this is kind of showing that there's going to be some type of dynamic between these two. If I had to guess, it's going to be a bit of a student-teacher kind of a relationship like he had with Reaper, so I wouldn't be surprised if these two become a little duo. And in turn, Sierra, thanks to in-game lore that we got with the second week of the lore event going on right now, Watchpoint Grand Mesa, we find out that she's done some digging on Cassidy already, and she's looking into everything he knows about Reaper already. So it does look like she's going to be prodding him for information without him really knowing, at least for a little while. One thing I've learned constantly this season is everyone seems to underestimate Sierra. Emery and Freya underestimated her, and she was seen at least tracking the ship a little distance, and even now with Overwatch, Cassidy comments on her age, but she's done her research, and she knows what she wants. So that's going to probably be a moment where they're going to be able to talk about Gabe a bit more. Maybe those two are going to get to confront him together, and those three are going to have a story moment down the road. I would really like that, and I would just like to see her interact more with that kind of thing. But it does seem like these two are going to kind of become a student-teacher kind of dynamic, if I would guess. Sierra does need an Overwatch character to kind of bounce off of at the moment, so I think this would be really cool, and kind of mirrors how everything happened with Cassidy in the past. So really cool symbolism there. Overall, these are my thoughts on this one with Crossroads. What did you guys think of it? I thought this was a really good character piece on Cassidy and Ashe and giving us an update on Deadlock, and it does paint the picture that, well, any faction can really get lore now, which is kind of crazy to think about. The Deadlock gang were not a faction I was expecting to get a ton of focus this season, but I am really happy we got this one. This comic in particular is probably my favorite of all of the ones we've gotten so far for this story arc. It's just been, well, peak, as I could say. They're on a mountain, so peak. But it's also just drawn so well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of everything down below. This has been a really fun one, and I can't wait to see where we go next. My entire schedule was kind of thrown off with the release of this one, so it really feels like we could get lore whenever now, which is exciting and a little scary. Anyways, that's all from me. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!